I thought the conceptual part of this, of taking a slice of life of this family and making that compelling. Why? Because they're honest, because they're human beings, and we like to take a peek into other people's lives to see how they live. Thank you for coming again. My name is Bryan Cranston. This is Cinema's Palme. We appreciate you coming, and we have a treat for you. Not only this movie, which I loved, and I think you got into it as well, but we also have the star of the movie. You know him primarily as a comedic actor, which we're going to talk about too. He started on Saturday Night Live for about 8 years, playing a variety of fun characters. Before that, he was a writer. He wrote comedy shows. David Letterman's show, and among many others. We'll talk about that as well. Going from writing to acting, the relationship between the two. But before that, he was also a history major at UCLA. So naturally, he became an actor, because what are you going to do with a history major? Please welcome Will Forte. And now I want to introduce the director of the film. He is also a man who has written a tremendous amount, and we'll talk about that. The relationship going from writing to directing. And as far as I can see, he did act in one film, but I was trying to find a clip of it, and I haven't. I'd like to find out how he found that, to be in front of the camera as well as behind. You know him from writing and directing movies like Election, which was a little movie about 12 years ago. A fantastic film. If you haven't seen that movie, you should rent it. About Schmidt was another one that he wrote and directed. Sideways, wrote and directed. And until Nebraska, most recently, he did The Descendants as well. So I want to get right to it. So please welcome Mr. Alexander Payne.
You tell me.
Here, why don't you sit here? I'll sit in the middle, because then my head can spin. It's interesting because both of you guys have somewhat similar backgrounds. You started really as writers. You both went to UCLA. You were both history majors at one time. You have a history degree as well as a Spanish degree, really?
Yeah, but
This,
how can I put this delicately?
let me turn this microphone. I know you're not used to this.
I was UCLA grad school. I was Stanford.
Okay. But a history major.
Yes, indeed.
And then in the undergrad, you were a history major
And Spanish.
And Spanish.
Right.
And then you went, wait a minute, hold the phone. I'm going to go to UCLA and be a film major.
Correct. Get my MFA in film. But I consider when I was in college, I was considering two careers: one in film, the other in journalism. And I thought a background in history and literature would be appropriate for both, because it's all about the human story.
It is. And you were born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, where some of Nebraska was shot.
Yes, most of it.
Most of it was shot in Nebraska, with the exception of Billings, Montana. And you still live there today.
I do.
And how do you make that work?
Well, I have a home in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
So I divide my time between these two domiciles.
Let me ask you, why do you still live? You're a big shot, movie mogul now. Why do you still live in Omaha, Nebraska?
I like it.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know if anybody here has been to Omaha in recent years, but it's rocking right now. It's kind of becoming like a mini Portland. My aging folks are still there, and I have very good friends there, and I love being a part of that community.
Do you feel that it's your connection, it's a talisman, if you will, to connecting to something real, your background, how you grew up, so that you don't get lost in the maelstrom of Hollywood?
Yes.
There we go. Right and straight. Let's go to the point. Will, you're a native Californian.
Yes, Northern California.
Northern California. You came down to UCLA to be a history major, so naturally you went into comedy.
Yes.
Because
I started out, my dad is actually here tonight.
Mr. Forte, where's Mr. Forte?
He was a stock analyst. He was in the financial industry. So the first couple of years out of UCLA, I just thought that's what I would do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Or actually, I think I knew that I wanted to act, but I was just nervous to try it.
So you went into being a stock analyst for how long?
Well, I just was at the cold calling level. I was working for somebody.
Oh, that's the worst.
It was hard.
Hi, Mr. Swanson. Hi, it's Will Forte.
Yes, it was really tough. And then when this guy offered to put me through the Series 7 test and bring me in as his junior partner, and that was when I made the decision to go into comedy.
It was fight or flight, and you ran away. You ran away to comedy.
No disrespect, Dad, or to anybody in the financial industry, but I hated it.
It was a good move. It was a very good move. This film you did not write. You write many of them. How did this script come across your desk?
Well, it was called Nebraska.
That's a good way. Did they target you for that? Did they know, okay, he's from Nebraska, he's going to love this?
The producers who someone asked me today whether Bob Nelson, the guy who wrote it, had me in mind at all when he wrote it. And I never asked him that question. I don't know whether he did or not. I don't think so. And indeed, the producers who sent it to me, who previously had produced Election, really sent it to me asking me for advice about who might be a good director. They didn't suspect.
Oh, that's a setup, isn't it? We're not asking you to do it, but if you have any advice on who might.
Now you tell me. Yeah. See, I'm not that smart. Oh. But I liked it.
How close to that original script is what we saw here?
Yeah, pretty close. I did a rewrite on it before shooting, and then I wrote the ending and put a lot of lines from my own mother in it. It's true. His mother spoiled him. That's what my mother always said about my father rather. Yeah, so but I didn't seek screen credit on it because I really felt I was serving his screenplay. I was just beveling its edges to my will.
Yes. Now, when you first read it, did you know right away, I need to do this? Yeah, because you've also produced. So what made you say, I need to direct this?
But I've produced as favors to friends. I hate producing. I'm not interested in producing. I didn't go to film school to be a producer. I couldn't care less. But I have done it. Look, I'm always looking for something to direct. And those, for me, I mean, I'm not Woody Allen or the Coen brothers or Fassbender who could think of, a script a year and just crank them out. I don't work like that. I'm not that fast. I'm slower. So I'm always desperate to find a great idea or a book to adapt, or in this case, a screenplay to make. I actually had the same process with it as I do with in adapting a book. There's a source material and there's a world suggested that I get to parachute into and have a dialogue with. So for me, it was in a way, yes, it was my first experience directing a script someone else has written, but it was like doing an adaptation.
Bob Nelson, who was the screenwriter, was he from this area?
His parents were. His parents were from northeastern Nebraska, where we ended up shooting. But he grew up in Washington State.
Will, how did this come across your desk?
I have an agent who sent it to me. I loved the script. I knew that he was directing it. And there was no part of me, though, that thought there was any realistic shot that I had to be in this movie. But I just thought, I felt this connection to the character. I loved the script so much. What the heck, stop playing computer games for a couple hours and put myself on.
Do you think that in some way, because you thought there was no way in hell you were going to get this part, that it made you more relaxed when you went in to meet with him?
No, because I put myself on tape first, so I could control the audition a little more. I sent him the best of, got probably 10 takes of each scene. I'm a little OCD, and I just really keep going and going and going until it gets too late to do any more. So it really, at a certain point, I got too tired to do more and stopped and picked the best of that. And my goal was really just to get my agent to not keep hounding me to do this, and to just send in something that he wouldn't show to people and laugh at.
So you wanted to do this movie just to stop your agent from hounding you?
Essentially, yeah. I mean,
career
no,
move there, I think.
Of course, this was just an experience I never thought I'd get to have. It came out of nowhere. I know my place in the grand scheme of this industry, and there is no reason for me to have ever thought that I'd be in an Alexander Payne movie. Even getting a very small part in an Alexander Payne movie would have been a career highlight for me. So to get to play, I can't thank you enough for letting me do this.
You did a terrific job, too. Thank you very much. But when you first saw this tape, then, did you go, oh yeah, he's the guy? Or did it take a while?
No,
No, right away, he's right.
I was asking Alexander.
right away I thought he could be the guy, because I hadn't yet cast the father. I hadn't lit yet on Bruce Dern, and so I was keeping a couple of different Davids alive to see whom we were going to cast as the father. So, because it's not just about the best actors per se, it's also about constructing a family who would be believable on screen. So I believed he could be the progeny of Bruce and June Squibb.
Right. Who, by the way, June Squibb. I mean, how fantastic is that? And nominated for the Golden Globe, I believe, and fantastic. So the cast is coming together. How much after the submission for this tape and others did the idea of Bruce Dern solidify?
Maybe about a month or so. Oh, after the submission of the tape, well, he submitted the tape, the casting director, and I liked it a lot. Maybe 6 weeks later or something like that, you came into the office?
4.5
4.5
months.
But 4.5 months?
And then I came in like a month and a half later, so it was 6 months after it finished.
Fine.
No, it's fine, because it wasn't like I was waiting by the phone. I sent this in thinking, I will not be in this movie, but I've done this now. I can go back to my computer games, and I just was not.
This is almost as much of a long shot as winning $1 million in the way.
Honestly, and so it was when I got that call 4.5 months later. It was out of the blue. It was out of nowhere. It was the most exciting thing.
There are other things you might want to talk about, but long story short, however the hell long after your tape was, I called him into the office. I liked what he did in person. He was consistent. And then, I don't know, a couple months after that, decided on Bruce, and then all the dominoes fell toward Will.
Now, in this film...
And your buddy Bob Odenkirk.
And my buddy Bob Odenkirk, yes, who did a terrific job as well. I think part of the reason that I gravitated toward this movie is that you have such a sweet face, that you have such an endearing face. You're a horrible person in real life, but the face is endearing. And I think that's what...
My father is here.
I think that's partly why it works so well. There's something very sweet about it and earnest about you when we saw you on the screen.
Thank you.
Now, speaking of people on the screen, you use a lot of real people in this. And in there, and we might want to know who was real and who was not, because the
Actors are real people too.
No, we're not. No, that's where you make a mistake. That's your first mistake I've ever made. Right there. How do you know when you can use a honest God real person from that town, and when you say, no, I need an actor for this role?
The casting director and I have, over the course now of 6 films, developed an MO for discerning who will be bulletproof, that's the term I use, when the cameras roll, and can do something which I don't think I could do, which is to be natural and unself-conscious in front of all that machinery and those burly technicians and all that, the machinery of filmmaking, which is, to me, quite intimidating. And it's gotten to the point where we can discern in people the ability or the talent to do that, even when they have no idea that they can do it. Mm. So certainly, first it's a matter of getting these people just to come into the office. And often it's not just that they do it voluntarily. John Jackson, the casting director, finds them in life and says, would you please come into the office and audition? Well, I'm not going to do that. Please do it. Just come in. For example, tiny part. He's a stereo salesman at the beginning. The guy, well, yeah, that's good, I think we just have to, we can talk about it and we'll get back to you. That guy is perfect, I think. He never thought about it in a million years. John, that was in Norfolk, Nebraska, popped 25,000, and he was the drive-through coffee guy. And John Jackson is getting his coffee from every morning, the one little lone barista in this piece of shit thing in the middle of the parking lot in Norfolk, Nebraska. You've got to come in and audition. You have to. All right. He didn't show up for a couple of times, and finally did. And finally got it. So,
is he all Hollywood now? The guy who first sees Bruce and you guys on the bench and comes over, gee,
hey, how you doing, Bernie Bowen? He's most of his life is spent going to kidney dialysis in Des Moines, Iowa. That guy, he answered an ad in the Des Moines Register because John went out for a few days to cast in Des Moines. We were based in Omaha, so we were casting a net, to professional places in Chicago, Minneapolis. Those 2 places have a big theater community. St. Louis, Kansas City, but then we go personally to Des Moines and Lincoln and places like that. So
it's just beautiful. We want to get some questions from the audience, but also I wanted to find out first. So think of the questions. But I wanted to find out, and I had talked to you about this before, and you said I want to do this film in black and white, and if the studio won't support me in this, I'm just not going to do the movie. And first of all, why was it so important to do it in black and white? And did you have a big pushback from the studio on doing that?
Black and white, it just felt right. Yes, it's true, I had always wanted to make a film in black and white, and I knew it would have to be on the cheap side. And when I read this script, I wasn't thinking, is this my black and white film? But as I was reading it, I was seeing it in black and white, and then it hit me, ding, this could be my black and white cheapie, the one I've been looking for. And then years, 9 or 10 years later, when finally there was a big gap between when I first read the script to when I made it, because I was making Sideways and I didn't want to do one road trip movie after the other. So right when The Descendants was done, I turned my attention to this one, and everyone was acting all, what, black and white, what, no one's going to finance that in the studio, go take a hike and all that. And I just thought, this is my one chance to make a black and white film. Plus, I see it in black and white, and I just thought, if we can't work it out right now, maybe further on down the trail we can. I've sat on the script for 8 years, I'll sit on it for another 8 years, whatever, I'll do something else.
So you were willing not to make this movie. Correct. If you didn't.
And even the DP, the producers, we'll do it in a very desaturated color. No, it's not the same thing. And please take this the right way, but I'm going to ask ad nauseum and ad infinitum, why black and white? And I'm polite, and I say, well, it just felt like like I answered you. And really my feeling is, you're a fucking ignoramus. Because look how beautiful it is. Forgive my bad language in this one. Look how beautiful it is. Why do you have to ask for that? Can't you see the film and just see like, wow, and most of our great film heritage is in black and white. And it never left fine art photography. It only left our cinema for commercial reasons. And it's astonishingly beautiful when well done and appropriately done, as is color when well done and appropriately done. I'm a filmmaker. I have to have access to all possible tools of cinema. But story and black and white is king, and I knew it had to be a cheapie. So anyway, the studio pushed back a lot. The film took a year longer to make. That's part of why it was 4.5 months between when he was working out the black and white issue. Now, when the studio and I finally came to an agreement, sorry to be long-winded about this, finally came to an agreement about how much the movie would cost, everything was smooth sailing. And I had complete freedom. They left me completely. That was one of the best experiences I've had making a film. But getting there was a little rough.
What did you shoot this on?
Digital Alexa.
Digital
Is that what you
Alexa.
shot the TV show on?
No, we shot 35 millimeter.
The whole show?
The whole show was
Wow.
35 millimeter film. Because at the time, AMC was showing a lot of their old films from their library, and they didn't want their series to look any different from their films. So, and that decision was made back in 2006. Now they would definitely not want to go that way.
It's gone away.
It's kind of sad. But are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
My question's for Mr. Alexander Payne. I know you're a silent film fan, and I was wondering if you could address whether some silent filmmakers have impacted your career in the way that you do film today.
The question was that she knows that Alexander Payne is a silent film fan, and what films or filmmakers from that era have influenced his career.
That would really be a subject of a longer conversation between you and me. But a very simple one would be, sorry to say the obvious, but Chaplin. And when I first saw Modern Times at about age 6, that's one of the films that has most blown my mind in my life. And I return to that film and The City Lights quite frequently. And I'm asked a lot about how am I able to combine comedy with pathos? And I say it's nothing new. And we have a wonderful influence and example of Chaplin. And also shooting, like Fred Astaire, shooting performance in full shot and not breaking it up into close-ups and pieces, but trying to see the bodies of the actors. I like to do that. I like to stage for the camera and not chop it up into pieces as much as possible. Each film's different, but this one certainly was, as you know, it had as little cutting as it could take.
Thank you.
Will, going from doing 8 years of sketch work, writing and thinking and performing in 2 to 3 minute segments, and then looking at this script and realizing I'm in the whole thing. I'm carrying a lot of weight here. Was it intimidating? Did you just reach up and grab it? And what was the most difficult part of preparing and shooting these?
The most difficult part was the part before filming. It was very intimidating going in. It was just completely new in so many different ways. And being such a huge fan of Alexander's, going in, going to work with somebody with so much experience, like Bruce Dern and Stacy Keach, June Squibb. I had met Bob before, but it was just, there were so many things that I got worked up over. I really tend to overthink things in my life, and so I had a lot of time to worry. And then by the time we actually got to Nebraska to prepare, we had about a week. He called me in a couple days before Bruce and June got there, just so we could hang out and get to know each other. And then once Bruce and June came, we had about a week of quote-unquote rehearsal time, which really was just driving around to different locations that we were going to be shooting at. and hanging around, getting to know each other. So by the time we actually started working, the intimidation was gone for the most part, and you felt really supported. Everyone was very, very good to me and supportive.
Was this a character that you felt, oh, I know this guy, I can slip right in? Or was he outside of you and you had to really work hard to get a sense of him?
I think I felt really connected to this character. It's way closer to who I am in my personal life than anything I've ever done. I mean, most of the things I've done have been these big, broad, absurd characters, but there was something very frightening about playing something more real, and you feel very vulnerable. But I guess I'm so used to playing a character that one of the main things that I remember Alexander doing for me was right before we started going into production. I was wondering how he wanted me to do it, and he basically just said, essentially just be yourself, like you are. I chose you for a reason.
I remember a lot of times on set you'd say, I was thinking, Alexander, should I do it more like this, or should I do it like that? And I would just say, just go do it. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
Just stand over there and recite your dialogue.
He's a very mean director.
Because you are the guy. No, he is the guy. You are that guy.
And really that, I feel like that was probably stuff that happened the first couple weeks and then went away the more we did it, as I kind of understood a little more, and he could not have
But I
invited
have
me.
to
Bruce
say,
was
if
great.
I may, this guy comported himself as a total pro, completely prepared every day.
Really, that's not what I heard.
And I'm sure you've seen it on set with lots of players who don't know their damn dialogue. I mean, backwards and forwards, and so they can be comfortable and relaxed on set. That drives me crazy, and it happens all the time. It's true. So, but he knows his dialogue and was completely reliable, and that makes me feel at ease, which in turn, I think the vibe you get from me then makes you feel at ease.
Oh, yeah.
And we're all just doing it.
He has the most relaxed set because he knows exactly what he wants, and that makes you feel very protected as an actor. Because I remember the first couple of weeks, I would come up to him maybe after a scene, and I would say, "Are you sure that was all right? Are you sure? And, are we just moving on because you need to move on?"
I'm moving on of politeness, that's right. I'm sabotaging my
Totally didn't get
out
it,
of
but-
politeness to you.
No, but I'm a crazy person essentially. I mean, so
It's true, and actors have a tendency to overthink things.
But after a while you do realize, oh, he knows exactly what he wants, and he is not going to move on until he gets it, and then once that registered to me, I felt very protected and great.
Good. Let's take some more questions. Yes, sir.
Hey, Alexander. Thank you, firstly, for making human drama again. These are the sort of movies Hollywood doesn't seem to make a lot these days.
Thank you for making human drama again.
Well, focusing on human drama and human stories again, that's what I'm trying to say. But also, you were talking about Chaplin and that mixture of comedy and pathos, which I suppose is a signature of Chaplin. But when I think of your movies, I think of a mixture of bittersweet as well. What draws you to those themes, if you could expand on that a little more?
What draws him to themes of bittersweet in nature?
I don't know. Look, I say whether I'm being completely sincere or somewhat disingenuous that I make comedies. But I want comedies anchored in the real world. And what is the real world? One of pain, one of complexity, believability, and the patina of the films. I don't want to limit whatever type of films I'd like to make in the future, but these first half a dozen, I've striven
I think it's Strovinix. Just
to bring to a commercial Hollywood film a reality based not on a movie reality, but on real reality. And that starts at the screenplay, production design, cinematography, even editorial technique. It has to somewhat be similar to real reality as we live it. And anyway, reality, my reality, our reality has laughter and sadness and drama and with hairpin turns every day, every hour, every moment. And I don't know why a movie should be different. Movies shouldn't be single, to my mind, single notes, but chords. And so I want a movie which functions and hangs together dramatically, but is done with a light and I hope charming touch. I think film should be charming. I think film should be entertaining. But thanks for your question, and it's very hard to, questions of how, why are you you? How are you? Those are tough questions.
Look at those scenes.
Those are some thoughts tonight, and thanks for your question.
The scenes where all the men are in there watching television. It's so real. We've seen that. We've lived through that, and we secretly smile or we laugh. It's just brilliant, and have the courage to be able to just stay with that when no one's talking about anything, and then a thought pops up. Yes, you have a question, ma'am?
Yes. This isn't the first time that you've used people who weren't actors. But could you discuss some of the people that you've used that went on to have big careers?
People whom I've taken from
This,
off the street.
right, like election.
Casting is like going to the pound. It is.
How dare
You come with me, the rest of you, to the ovens.
Wasn't it true? Wasn't it true that Meryl Streep was working at the Tasty Freeze during election, and you discovered her in the window?
No, but she's wondering about whom I've cast, who's gone on to. Election was really the first one. Two of them. Chris Klein was a senior at a high school in Omaha. That's another one. He didn't audition. I saw him when I was touring that high school. I was scouting the high school, and he came out of the weight room, and the principal said, "Oh, you should meet Chris Klein here. He was just Tony in West Side Story. Did a bang-up job." And so I met him, and yeah, thanks, Dr. K. And then weeks went by, and I was out in L.A. casting for that part, kind of a jock guy. I didn't find anyone I liked, and I went back to Omaha and called up the administration of that high school and said, "Do you remember a guy?" I didn't remember his name. He played Tony in West Side Story, that's all I did. And he ended up getting the part, and he went on to be in American Pie after that, and a bunch of movies. And then another kid in that film, Nick D'Augusto, was a senior at the very same Jesuit high school that I attended in Omaha. Gave him a part, and he is now on Masters of Sex.
Oh my God.
And he's been in a bunch of things. He's having a big career right now. Guy in his mid-30s, Nick D'Augusto. So those are two. And then people say to me, "Oh, you really gave Reese Witherspoon." That's more of an actor at her beginning. Reese Witherspoon, you really helped her with election. And I say, look, she was going places. She didn't need me. She was going places anyway, and I'm happy to have helped. And I feel the same way about Shailene Woodley, who was in The Descendants. She's becoming the next Jennifer Lawrence sort of gal. Wish they could.
Sure. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Sure. Sure. Go ahead and stand up. Project.
This one's for Will Forte. I want to say, I'm a really big fan of you. And one thing that I kind of want to rant about is when I'm at work, a lot of times when people get in trouble, like they have to go to the boss, I always go, we kind of make fun of them when they come out because they come in, they go to the boss and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to tell this guy how it is." But when they come out, they're always really drained, and it seems like everything went wrong. Which I think about with MacGruber is when he's talking with the the general, and he's like, "You're off the team." And then whenever they're coming out, I always just start that little monologue that you say, I don't know if I should say it right here.
No, say it.
I'll do the voice of my coworker, because he's like really rusty type of guy, and it's like,
I forgot which part you were talking about. My father is here. He's in there.
so when we're going by, sometimes if I don't want to say it because we're by, people, customers, things, I'll just say, just tell me what you want me to do! But films being rebooted or remade, like, in terms, like, Naked Gun's gonna be remade, which I know...
Really? Jeez.
Yeah. When I think of that film, I can only really see Leslie Nelson as that, and, just because he was just a great actor. And so when you see films like getting rebooted or remakes, and I see you guys make a lot of original films, well, what's your takes on that? Is it okay to reboot, or is there something that you would want to reimagine that maybe didn't get the chance that it did?
First of all, thank you very much. Thank you for your support of MacGruber. I appreciate it. We're really proud of that movie, and not a lot of people saw it, and it means a lot when I hear somebody who connected with it. So thank you. I would always just think, move on and do something new. I would never want to see. Every once in a while, you hear somebody's going to remake Fletch. And to me, Fletch was a very special movie growing up, and I can't imagine anybody but Chevy Chase being Fletch. And if producers of a new Fletch are here, I apologize. Go for it. Keep going. I'll watch it. I will watch it. No, I don't know.
Well, what about going from a sketch on Saturday Night Live and becoming a movie? Is that kind of...
But I feel like that's a different scenario, because Lauren makes us do that stuff. So, no, I'm kidding. We were excited to try it, and we approached MacGruber just thinking, well, let's just take the character and make it nothing like the sketches, and that was very liberating and fun to do. It would be weird, though, if there was a point down the road where somebody said, we're going to remake MacGruber with somebody else as MacGruber.
Get us a Will Forte type.
I would talk them out of it. I was like, people do not go see those movies. So.
Any other questions?
Except for you, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Okay, I would like, Alexander Payne, I would like you to comment about the landscape and the scenery that you use in your movies. This one particular, but also Descendants have beautiful scenery and sideways. But can you comment about how you use the scenery to promote the movie or the dialogues or the story?
Well, you may know that in the films I make, I'm very interested both in the emotional story and in the place, where it's they talk about a sense of place. So I like very much to try to capture anyway, the area where I'm shooting and make it very specific, almost with a documentary sense. I'm trying to document the emotions and document the place and the relationship between the two. So, there's one director whose work I've studied over the years who did that very well. His name was Anthony Mann. Not an extremely well-known director, but he made 5 really wonderful westerns with James Stewart in the 50s. And his work consistently shows man in the foreground, but with a constant and vivid sense of the landscape in the background. Now, how you go about that would be specific to every director, and I have found it useful to use interstitial landscape shots in between dramatic scenes. And they may have different functions. In The Descendants, the landscape I intended to show how grand and vivid and mammoth is nature in Hawaii, and how small man is, how puny he is, and how if he's smart, he realizes that he's just a link in the chain, as George Clooney's character has to by the time he realizes, that he's a member of a family, and that, both his immediate family and in the inheritance of the land and all that, if you remember that movie. Here, I'm not sure exactly what function it had, but I wanted very much to show Nebraska. And I knew, and specifically, and I can't say why yet, but I knew I wanted to shoot in the autumn with leafless trees and stubbly cornfields, and have a real sense of that, and a barrenness. Now, I've read a couple reviews that say, oh, the landscapes are as barren as the lives of the characters. And I don't know, maybe that's true, maybe it's too simple. I don't know, I'm operating and still thinking about it a bit more instinctive, more intuitively. So those are a few thoughts about landscape.
Yes, ma'am.
This is for the three of you. Can you give us any insight as to what projects you have upcoming that we can look forward to?
Projects you have upcoming.
Will?
Nebraska 2 is moving.
But it's T-O-O.
We're looking for directors for that. I have to write a pilot for Fox called The Last Man on Earth, and so have been putting that on hold for a while, and now I'm digging deep and trying to finish that.
Really? I was told you were like 38 pages in.
I told that lie to somebody who thinks I am today. Do not get this information out there. I'll get in trouble.
Brian?
I'm going to New York in a couple weeks, and I'm going to be on Broadway doing a play called All the Way, which covers Lyndon Johnson's first year presidency from 1963 to 1964, election night. So if you're in New York, from March through the end of June, come see me. And that's what I'm doing.
I'll be there. I don't know what my next film is. I've been reading scripts and books and haven't found anything lately, so I'm going to reconvene in early January with the co-writer of my first 4 films, Jim Taylor. And we're going to start working together, writing something new.
When we were, I just want to make this one little anecdote. We were standing in the back and the credits were going, and Alexander was listening to the audience and the levels of the audio being played, and he wanted to make sure that when we play this again, that the level of the sound is up a couple more decibels. And that's how are you that way with every single part of it? Are you impossible to live with when you're working?
No.
No?
Well, maybe. I don't live with anyone right now.
Is it all fun for you, or is there an aspect of filmmaking that you dread?
Studio meetings sometimes, but even those are getting a little better. No, I don't really dread any of it. I love it all. I just love filmmaking. I feel so lucky to be able to do it. I love every second of it. And it's at once 100% work and 100% play. And what can be better?
I agree. It was so amazing getting to watch him work. It really was the experience of a lifetime. But I do want to do an impersonation of him right before a show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alexander Payne. And it's so much better. The slight adjustments you just made.
And I mean, if you see, there's not a frame in there that's anything less than completely beautiful. So I don't know what is. Maybe there's what is that? Is there like a light that's shining in a particular part? Like how does that?
You forgot to go back and check it through the lens.
Oh.
But yeah, no, the last thing I do before any shot is last look at production design and set dressing, make sure it's all, where it might be.
It's such an amazing, because like I said before, what I left out, knows exactly what he wants, but very confident and relaxed, and the rest of the crew just follows his lead. It's the most relaxed set and just a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Are you able to work with the same group time and time again as much as possible? You don't have them under constant contract, so they're at your beck and call. So just hope they're
No, I've
available.
been really lucky. I like working with them, and thank God they like working with me. Over 6 features, I've had the same editor. Over 5 features, the same script supervisor, the same sound mixer, the same sound designer, same assistant director.
It does help, doesn't it? You're creating a family.
Yeah,
and
5
you-
of the 6, the same production designer. Now I've worked with the same DP 3 in a row. Sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes loyalty is simply laziness or cowardice.
Yes, sir.
This is a question for Mr. Payne, but I wanted to first address Will Forte. I want to thank you for your uproariously funny work on the Conan O'Brien show. As Ted turned
How funny was that? That was the funniest thing I've seen in a long time. That was really funny.
Thank you.
But Mr. Payne, my question is, this actress who played Peg Nagy or Peg Bender, small work, small scenes, but just extraordinary depth there. I wonder if you could tell us a little about her.
Thanks. I'll email her tonight and tell her, yeah, about the question and the scattered applause. I'm glorious. John Jackson, my aforementioned casting director, and I pretty much follow every lead. In casting and locations, we follow every lead because you never know. So we actually open up, well, I guess people don't send things in the mail so much anymore, but if they do, we open up every one, and we look at every single email, and we look at every face, and we check out everyone. And she's a gal who has come late to acting. She lives in Whittier, California. She is the widow of a wealthy Nicaraguan guy she met. She's been acting mostly in student films and in soap operas for the last 10 years or so, and we liked her face.
We love movies, and these two gentlemen have been involved in making really a phenomenal film in Nebraska. Please welcome them and thank them for being here tonight.
Thank you all very